Yeah, I think when you're starting to build a program, it starts with like trust, getting to know each other, but also trust in the approach we're taking, trust that the opportunity for the players is going to be there. And so I think about that word in a lot of things when you're building from the bottom up, starting ground level. And that's how we've tried to approach it here, starting in year one and staying consistent with that approach. And then you build on some trust. Obviously, the competition and the standard of at a really high level and those things. But foundationally, starting to build a program, it starts with trust. I think in retaining players, you know them better. They've bought into the approach, the way we're going about it. They believe in what their opportunity in it. Oftentimes, the more you retain in your program, those guys start to speak your language, right? For the new players, so they can then be the example of how we're trying to approach that. And so, let alone when retaining players, they should be improving from the year to the next. And so you're keeping a lot of good players that way. Yeah, we're going to build on that. He did some of that in his first year. Definitely, again, a year under his belt, his confidence, his comfort level. I think that all of us, for the coaches, we're really excited about the continuity of the staff and the players back on offense, so that they're in the second year of the system, learn from experiences. And so Aiden's a good communicator. He recognizes it well. And so we'll open up that a little bit in regards to him at the line of scrimmage and changing things. Right. Well, just familiar with our process, doing it again the next year. Familiar with the league in regards to being able to watch not just the teams we played last year, but the tape that you digest of the league throughout the season. Knowing where areas where I think about position groups and how they can improve, or what we needed to bring in to create competition. That's different than last year. 'Cause just you know them, you know what you got better. A year in even the weight room. You think about the training and going through that cycle a second time now versus doing it the first time. That's in a better place. So there's a lot of things. That's what I talk about. We learned a ton in year one that we're trying to improve on. I think it creates excitement to those games in November leading into those games, or the playing games. You think about it, you get into the first week of November, look at statistically, I think it was like 12 teams still would have been alive to earn opportunity at those things. And so that's why I said it. I appreciate Tony's, his communication, the Zoom calls we had, I don't know, the last 6 months as coaches involved in that conversation, ideas. It's well thought out, and it does. He said it married regular season with the postseason in such I think would be exciting way to make meaningful games happening in November. I think it's a great selling point that you'd be playing on the best of the best, and that's what you want to sign up to compete against. The exposure that comes with playing the best of the best, and the success of the league and those teams the last couple of years, and not just the winners, right? We've been other guys that have gone deep into the playoff that only helps in recruiting. I think he's accurate that football does, drives a lot with athletics and the school itself and things. We want to be successful, and that pressure's always there. And I've appreciated Jay from the day one of coming in and talking about partnering, and he's been around some big time football, looking at his past experiences, previously with Georgia Tech, and then the trend they've done football wise the last couple of years. Obviously, he's had a long stint at Alabama where they're doing it as good as anybody, and so I look forward to working with his expertise on contributing to the football program being successful. Again, it's a short amount of time. I do think he's come in with the mindset he wants to learn about the place and learn the people, which I appreciate. And I do think he's, like I mentioned, been around doing this thing at a high level from a fundraising, leadership side, partnering with coaches. That was an early conversation he had with all coaches at Michigan State, talking about finding ways to partner and really support their programs. Right. I think it's been less seen or focused on because of so much other things to think about, talk about, because you're on it. These guys are still 18 to 22. There's still an amount of growth and development are taking place in ways, yes, they should earn or be compensated. I'm not against that in any way, but that is just a piece of the pie of their experience. I think about a high school player coming to college, high school football, step up to college football. That's going to be a big step up. Speed of play, physicality, schemes, techniques, all of that. Same way in school, right? You're getting a high school degree, big time, but you're stepping up in the classroom as well. That's not always easy for guys. And so all of that life that's still going on between 18 to 22, college coaching is still quite a bit about that. I mean, really difficult. He just jumps out, especially seeing it in person. The talent, he's gifted, the contested catch, separation, the physicality, the breaking tackles, hand-eye coordination, one-handed grabs. I mean, he is a special. I think overall I would call him solid. I do think from week 1 to week 12 he grew, and we put a little bit more on his plate on that. So he was solid with it. There weren't many snaps that he got us in a play that we could have executed, right? We were just flat out outnumbered or something. We just got out-techniqued or outmanned. We got to get better on that side of it, because that's a component of our run game, is the quarterback getting us in a good play. And yeah, we feel solid about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think continuing to stay aligned and really allowing. I think we got a big time staff and some people in the building that are really good at their jobs, and continuing to allow them to run with things. I think about it from our coordinator sides, offense, defense, and those guys being aligned together. We're headed toward a month where they're going to go against each other nonstop, right? And so those two getting what they need out of practice and for both of them to be successful. And so I say all that to say, like, continue to be aligned and allowing the people to continue to suggest, have an idea. We did it this way. Do you mind? What do we think about tweaking, whether it's practice plan or the walkthrough timing, all kinds of stuff like that. I'm looking forward to seeing that play out. Yeah, I feel really solid about that. We definitely have a guy or two that's going to be watched, limited in August. That we don't have a season-ending injury currently, which we just met with the trainer yesterday, which was encouraging. And that's always the balancing act. You know, you just think about this practice, you got to get better, but we also want to stay healthy. That's where I'm back to both sides working together. How we practice matters, right? We got to make this thing competitive. It's fast. At the same time, taking care of each other as much as we can. Going back to growth, year 1 to year 2, retaining those type of players, believe in that process, and then that's how they practice. Is they know I play corner, but I want to compete against this wideout throughout practice, get better. At the same time, I want to make sure this wideout is healthy so he can go score some touchdowns. It means a lot for us. For a guy, sure, he had opportunities. But it goes back to then him believing in our approach. I do think he has a great chance to flourish at this place, leave a legacy at this place. I think he sees all of that. Well, I think we're going to put more on his plate in regards to moving him around. We can't just let him sit at one outside position and know the defense know where he's at. So we're going to challenge him that way. He handled a lot of that in the spring really, really well. And so for him to continue to add to his versatility within the offense. Yeah, we needed to. I mean, different skill sets, more guys, because Nick's such a talent. He is going to see recognition of coverage. So they're going to put 2 guys on him or cloud that side, those type of things. We got to have threats on the other side to go attack, and I think we've done that in the receiver room and with the tight ends. Yep, I've heard good things. I will say, the start of January, spring ball, and then post-spring ball is kind of what you're getting at to tighten up those, things, first experience of the spring ball with those 6 new guys, receiver-wise in particular. June, I know a lot of good work got done, and then into July. So the early reports I've gotten is that it's been a great summer for timing, getting on the same page that way. Yeah, he helps us. I think his skill set is natural in there. Nifty, because you got to avoid some traffic when you play inside, let alone he's closer to the line of scrimmage, quick hitters to get him the ball, and that fits his skill set in a big way. Yeah, It got to the point where we headed toward 105, but then, and I think this was fair and good, that you have some more or less exemptions right above your 105, and so we still have a good amount of walk-ons, which I appreciate. Contributed to the program. If it's something you find a good player out of that, they're a vital role for us to be able to run a program, and so our numbers will be over 105 for this fall. I think it's low because I'm all about opportunities. This is a great game, and for more to be able to, it's a deep question. There's a lot of issues that arrive and all that, but I think the more you have, the more opportunity there is. 105 seems light. Right. Well, yeah. Well, I think offensively, it starts with the line of scrimmage. You've got to find a way to be more balanced. So more consistent in the run game and to set the pass game up, and it starts at the line of scrimmage. We want to see that. Defensively, we've got to be able to affect the passer more than we did a year ago. And again, that's why I'm back to year one to year two retention schemes, knowing what we need to improve on. Special teams wise, we got to be really steady and solid in a running game. We got a good punter. And so we want to make that a weapon for us in the punt side of things on special teams. I think coaches, we got to continue to adjust, right? We do something well, there's good coaches in this league. They're going to take that away. And so all of us being ready to adjust just because we're doing something well, we know they're going to be able to shore that up, be the next step in the scheme. Excuse me. Well, we want to be thorough in the evaluation of it as much as we can. And so we talk about wanting to evaluate. Well, we want to evaluate off of snaps in college football, playing against 20-year-olds. And so we did take that approach of prioritizing guys that have played meaningful snaps at, call it whatever level, but against college players, and take a deep dive in the evaluation side of that. So we tried to err more on a proven player that has played against other 20-year-olds. Yeah, that's part of this balancing. I don't know if it's money ball, but you are balancing, what you're investing now on a player. And so whether he's 17 to 20 to 22, if he's got multiple snaps against 20 to 22-year-olds, you feel a little bit more proven commodity that way. Well, I think you talk about the momentum we've got. We feel really good on the recruiting side, 26 class of that consistent message of approach, development, and that part. I think one of our better things has been on the recruiting side to get them around our current players and the belief and the growth and development that has been taking place with our current roster to have them be a lead part of the recruiting side. I think about the logistics of playing on Friday night itself, that, we were down a day because, we're headed to the West Coast this next year and we're going to take 2 nights and go a day earlier. It just was not feasible to do it in regards to your preparation on a short week like that. And so that added a component. That's why I go back to this year 1 to year 2 learning. And I think every program coach learned from the extensive travel. I mean, some of this travel matters, and there was things to learn from year 1 of the coast to coast conference now that guys are going to adjust off of it. You think about it, but again, that changes quite a bit in your preparation and what you're normally doing. But let's face it, I'm willing to adjust to do that. I don't think we catch a Friday night road game like that this year, but when it comes, we're going to put some thought into it. Yeah, I think you talk about selling, or recruits look into backgrounds of coaches and programs and positions and what's taking place, and we take pride in our approach and how we develop and treat them, and we talk about that on the recruiting side. Yeah, I've been impressed from him coming in early on, describing ways to partner and finding ways to help each individual coach, not just myself. His background of success in our particular sport of football. You look at what's taking place at Georgia Tech the last couple of years football-wise. They got that thing in a solid setting. His experience being at Alabama. And, that's, a lot of the best in regards to a football program over the years. And so what he's bringing from that regard, I'm excited to continue to work with him. I do like our additions that we had in January, and I do like some of the development. Like the 3 guys we brought down here, these guys were here last season, and what they've done January to this point, watched them work in the off season, going through spring ball, the influence, speaking the same language as coaches. I feel really good and like that. Yeah, the coach, probably Chris Peterson, was with him 6 years, 2 at Boise and 4 as offensive coordinator in Washington. Still stay in touch with him today. He had a huge impact. And again, I've been around some big-time coaches on staffs and all that, but he's probably the lead kind of mentor in that area. Creativity, consistency, it put some deep thought into, not always quick to react or quick to decide, perspective. As you're going through this race and chasing these things down, stay still a healthy perspective on why we're doing what we're doing. Their athleticism, we felt like at that position we could still add some depth and opportunity and create in competition in that. And those 2 guys mentioned it earlier. It's an emphasis. We've got to find ways to continue to affect the passer better than we did last year. And so adding to that room, that opportunity to affect the passer, we thought both those kids did it. And again, it's not going to just be all a one guy beat a one-on-one pass rush, right? We got to be able to cover better. We got to get the quarterback holding the ball longer, maybe mix in a little bit more pressure, and then so all of that comes into affecting the quarterback. Well, when obviously when we recruited them, I met with them a ton, but no, as they come, they hit their ground running, getting around the strength staff and diving into it and registering and all of that. So I'm not the first stop. It speaks to some confidence we got in both Tarek and Martin, and then letting those guys compete. And I think that's when the cream rises to the top of true competition. We're going to continue that through August. Both of them had solid springs, and they're competing, to kick field goals, but also the kickoff side. And so we talked about it right after the season. Do we feel good like those two guys can continue to improve and be solid, and we're letting them go compete to do it. He's getting close. He's not completely full. He'll be in a limited to maybe start camp, but we anticipate him being full. Yeah, he's worked really hard. Had the early injury before we even arrived, and then just watching him grow through that, work through, right? Does it a lot of off-season rehab and training and strength training, and now watching him work in the weight room, his confidence level on the post-injury here, it's athletic. He's come a long ways, man. He's a talented, gifted player, athletically, physically, and mentally. Right. I don't know if there was a certain time there was like, the light went on. We definitely early, once he's fully practiced, you could see flashes of how athletic and talented he was. He had some time off before, and so he's working out the rust. But now I think he's cooking with gas. Yeah, let's call it unproven but talented. I do think we've got five guys that are going to compete. We do like to play more than just one back, but that's a spot where we're looking. The top two guys from last year's team are not here, and we got some young, good talent. Elijah, older transfers coming in. Back to the production question, the guy's almost 1,000-yard rusher at previous place, but that room's going to be interesting to kind of see who the top couple guys become. Haven't had deep conversations, especially with Jay arriving. I think we're kind of seeing let the dust settle on what the playoff format looks like and all of that. I do know currently those schedules are 6-8 years out, and so we haven't gotten in the weeds on that yet. I do internally feel it's not comfort, it is some confidence that just been through it a year now, knowing what we've got, how much work's been put in place, confident in approach ever since I started coaching, and the development and continuity, consistency, and now we've had a longer period of time of that. I think that adds to my confidence. I mean, there's a lot to that question. There's a lot of aspects of it. I do think back to a consistent approach of doing it at a high level, everything you're doing, weight room to the schemes of it, how you're practicing and how you're competing for 60 minutes. And so I don't think we're far in regards to being able to win every game every time we line up. I look at a couple of games where got away from us. Some of it was self-inflicted. So we're starting with ourselves, getting a little bit better, and we've got a chance to be a whole lot better this next fall. It's somewhat my approach, but my job is a lot of, you call it behind the scenes. That's why I go back to this people you surround you with and allow them to do their work. On the coordinating side, those guys organizing heavy, whether offense, defense, special teams, strength staff. I've been with Mike McDonald now, I think it's going on 13 years. Him operating and running. New roles in college football, general manager Cole Moore and him heading up the personnel, the recruiting side, and so letting those guys go to work where I feel confident with those pieces in place.
A year in, it's better.
Yeah. Obviously it takes longer than we wanted in year one because it wasn't near the consistent level we do. We got to continue to adapt. That's why, again, we're not in panic mode of just replacing the offense, but we do got to find ways for that to be more efficient. I'm not asking for 12, 15-yard runs every time we hand the thing off. We can't be going backwards, and so those kind of flaws, and then looking at ways to complement that scheme if we're not doing it at a high level to have some other answers. Yeah. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about, the pressure. I got some real urgency to get better, to win. And so you start with that point. It doesn't change a lot of how I think about it. I do think in the realities of this day and age, portal, NIL, revenue, there is some urgency to get good. I think there's a little bit of just watching him operate now with John. John Boyer, new quarterback coach, came in January to allow Brian Lingren to be able to oversee a lot. Brian's still involved with the quarterbacks, but I think the working relationship, Aiden and John, and really what John has done in that entire room to be able to nail down on the details, footworks, meeting more. I think that's been a benefit that Aiden's enjoyed. Yeah, I think he makes it. He has the talent, and he did make some big time throws that aren't always just athletically capable of others. And it's that balancing fine line of, because he's got a skill set to create so much, but picking and choosing when he's taking those shots and things. But he can make all the throws and be accurate with consistent throws. A lot of it comes down to protecting him better, getting open more, and him decision making.
His confidence level, is that something you have to remind him that he's at that level, or is he fully aware?
I think he's aware. Yeah, I don't think his confidence has been shattered or shaken in any way. This guy's competitive, and so I'm looking forward to him to let it rip again next year.
When Aiden was on that podium after the last game of the season, he's frustrated, and he talks about that. He vows to be better. So how do you harness that as a coach? Because on one hand, I feel like you want a guy to have that self-motivation, but you also don't want him to beat himself up.
Yeah. Conversations, you keep talking with Aiden is. He expresses his emotion. He doesn't hold much back. I think he's authentic that way, and that's some of the reason I really like him. Does get, he's competitive, so he's hard on himself, and so we continue to talk through when things go really well, things don't. And I think he'll be better again after 1 year doing it, going on to the next year.
Why do you trust him so much as a quarterback? Where does that?
Well, I watch him his work, his day-to-day, how much effort and work he puts into it, his enjoyment. He loves this game. He works at this game, the type of teammate he is, and then throw in, obviously, some talent and skill set.
Coach, you said after the Michigan State game last year, heading into Michigan State, you really started to sense the genuine dislike. Now, you got a lot more times living in the state of Michigan, being with the Michigan State program. Has that been heightened in your mind, or just more aware of that rivalry?
Well, experiencing it for the first time, yeah, heightened, aware. Call it bitterness. The passion of that sucker. That's a game I won't soon forget.
And a couple days ago, Derek Morris said he planned to take a belt to Michigan State's behind it. Is that the type of thing that you remember once the pads come on during the regular season?
Yeah, I'm sure that stuff gets brought up closer to the game.
Do you think there's a discernible difference on the demands of a Big Ten quarterback compared to other conferences? You being in the Pac-12 with weather differences.
Yeah, I don't know the difference. I just know it is demanding. Let's face it, the talent playing on the other side, the pass rush, the schematics defensively, especially on the road, the atmospheres these quarterbacks have to play in the conference is tough. The attention, right, with the biggest stage. So there's something that comes with that. It's a challenging for not just the quarterback, but in particular the quarterback. This thing's not easy.
What was the recruitment been like when you were at Oregon State, going all the way back? Like, what were those first years?
He out of high school, he transferred a little bit, had an injury, and so he was a little bit unproven. But we were able to see him in spring practice and felt like obviously the skill set was there. He hadn't had a bunch of tape. This was going all the way back to his junior year. Then getting around him through the recruiting process, beautiful family, mom and dad, athletic family. His younger brother's a big-time basketball player. And so we just tried to stay consistent and honest through the process of that.
Do you feel like the honesty part of things in recruiting nowadays is more important than some of the online guys, XYZ spotting?
I think it's almost on all of it, what you're doing, whether it's recruiting, but day to day and how you're developing and dealing with everyone, even with you guys, right? I just think that approach is really, really important. There's no question that there's a financial side to this thing now that is an important piece to a lot, and I get it. I'm not here to say that, yeah, 18-year-old can make hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's not going to be a factor in this thing.